My name is Michael Bednall. I'm a musician from Perth, Western Australia. For the past month, I've been isolated on this cruise ship out of New Orleans. Currently, I'm confined to my cabin 24 hours a day. I'm allowed out 3 times a day. Every attempt by my company to get me home has failed so far, and I'm desperate to get back home to my family, who are worried about my mental and physical health on board. I still have no idea how long that's going to be.
Wow, I really feel for him.
He looked really scared, didn't he?
Yeah.
He looked really scared. The uncertainty, and to be on this cruise ship and hearing the news of the world unfolding in all the different countries, and thinking, I went on this holiday and I don't know what I'm going to return to.
Yeah. Some kind of like apocalyptic visions probably come into his mind.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the zombie apocalypse, isn't it?
And when he said, I'm being let out 3 times a day, I was like, wow, it's kind of like
prison. And having been on a cruise fairly recently, when you're in those cabins, it's all recycled air.
Oh, yeah.
I know that when we were in our cabin, we were hanging to get out onto the deck to get the fresh air. Because when you're inside the boat, it's all just the air conditioning recycling through this ship. And
you can imagine what impact that would have on your mental health.
And it looks like he was travelling by himself, so he's in a room by himself.
No one to talk to, probably not a lot to do.
Fear.
Yep.
Worrying about his family.
Yep.
That would be horrific.
I'm thinking about the level of depression that a lot of people are probably experiencing in terms of, not only on the cruise ship situation, but also people being in our homes, and especially countries where they have to quarantine and they're not allowed actually outside their home. They might not even have a backyard that they can go out into. They might be able to walk down to the local patch of grass to walk their dog, but the amount of depression just because of the environmental factors and the impact that that's going to have going forward in terms of our mental health as a whole.
And your communication when you're on a cruise ship is very, very limited. So it's not easy to just call out or to do FaceTime or anything like that. You've got to have these internet packages, which are really quite expensive. And a lot of people on the cruise ships can't afford them. So it's being cut off from your family and not knowing what's happening. And on the flip side of that, there was a story that came out of Perth. A young woman had her parents both on a cruise ship, and they were on the Ruby Princess, which I'm not sure if you know about the Ruby Princess, but it had an outbreak of coronavirus on the ship, and she knew that her parents were unwell, and they were pulling into dock. I think they went into Fremantle Port and they weren't allowed to get off the boat. So the families that are at home, knowing that their family members are out on these cruise ships, they're unwell. They don't know the extent of how unwell they are. They can't get their family members home, and the impact and the spread that would have throughout their whole family. And I know that in that particular instance, they did manage to get the parents home, but unfortunately her mother died. And that's another story that I think is worth talking about, because she died alone. So even though her husband had been diagnosed with coronavirus, he wasn't allowed to be in the room with her. So he was in a room down the corridor at the hospital, but they were quarantined and isolated. And he knew that she was passing away and he wasn't able to be there with her.
Devastating.
Yeah, the impact is so far and wide. These people it's not just fearing death, but it's actually fearing death in isolation and not being able to be with your family members, or people that are passing away at the moment and for other causes or reasons and then can't have funerals.
Yeah.
And from a psychological perspective, you know, why a funeral's important.
Yeah, it's that ritual around death and grieving, and it actually helps us to process what's going on.
It gives us closure.
By connecting with those around us who are also experiencing the same thing. And what an awful thing for that older man to be left with, knowing that his partner died alone. Like, he's got to kind of deal with that now that she's gone. It's awful.
And then he had to stay in quarantine for another 2 weeks on his own without connection with his family.
Yeah, okay.
And tend to then not be able to have a funeral.
Yeah.
So, you know, the psychological impact for that family and for other families that are going through very similar, huge. That grief process is going to be so prolonged and quite traumatizing. Do you think that lends itself to a little bit of a lack of empathy? Because we've got to focus on our own stuff so much that our abilities to empathise are reduced?
Possibly. Like, I guess it's a finite thing, isn't it? You know, like, it's not a deep well that we have. I don't know. I mean, I think when everything is going okay in our lives, and we know as psychologists that we're able to tap into a lot of empathy for people, because it's a part of what we do as a part of our job. But, you know, when so much is going on and we're so overwhelmed and everyone's in a crisis situation, we can't actually take in much more.
It's difficult to offer that support.
Any more of that emotional support.
If you find these videos helpful,
hit the subscribe button and we'll see you next time.